Hi, everyone. Welcome. This is session number 20th of Climb Your Everest leadership workshop. Thank you, Dr. Love, for being here. Welcome, everyone. With no further ado, I'll let you start. Thanks.
All right. Well, thank you for having me again and another Saturday with you all. This is actually such a joy for me. I love teaching you all and hearing how I can support. So I want to talk and have a conversation about curriculum. And in this conversation about curriculum, I want to talk to you about two different types of curriculum development. One type of curriculum development is called transmissionist. Transmissionist it's a philosophy, it's a way of teaching, it's a way of learning, it's a way of designing your curriculum. And what a transmissionist says is they transmit knowledge from my brain to your brain. So if I'm a transmissionist, what I'm doing currently right now is I'm teaching you and you're listening, and hopefully you are hearing what I'm saying and you're taking notes. And it's the expectation that you regurgitate or you retell me what I've already taught you. It is the belief that me as the teacher has all the knowledge and I have to pour or transmit that knowledge into your brain as the student. You're not really involved in that process. And so when we think about curriculum, this is the traditional way that teachers build and create curriculum. It's the traditional way that teachers teach. So if I want to teach a math concept, I will write on the board or write on paper 2 + 2 = 4. And that's how I'm building out my curriculum, to teach you, to transmit knowledge to you. And you are expecting your students to be able to retell you 2 + 2 = 4. And when I build curriculum out that way, I don't have kids in mind. I don't have you in mind. It's all about me, the teacher. It's all about what I want to teach you. Are you following me so far? Amitra, I see your face, so I need you to let me know if you're the face that I see. So I'm expecting you to let me know if you're following me.
Yeah.
All right, Yansha?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay, good. So you guys understand that concept. I'm not going to talk a lot about that concept of curriculum building in the transmissionist way. I just want you to know that that exists. And I want you to know that that's how most teachers around the world teaches. Okay. There are some advantages to teaching in that way. If you're teaching a baby how to talk or how to walk or how to learn colors, the transmissionist way of learning sometimes can be helpful. You need them to repeat or retell what you're teaching them. But as one gets older, there's another way of teaching and helping to build curriculum around that includes the learner. And that's what I really want to talk about today. I want to talk about the learning sciences and constructivism. Constructivism, although is a big word, really it means to construct. I'm no longer taking this container of knowledge and giving it to you. I am now working with you to construct, to co-construct our learning, to co-construct our curriculum. We're building it together. Something kind of like what you all been doing with me. You have told me, this is what I need to learn. This is how I need to learn, right? This is more holistic in designing curriculum. So it's knowledge. Constructivism is knowledge. It's co-constructed between people. People work together in meaning making. So when you're building curriculum now, you're thinking about, how does this make meaning for us? How are we thinking about this? Learners are active in constructing their own knowledge. And so let's go back to the baby. If I wanted to teach the young person colors, instead of me telling them as a transmissionist, this color is red, I am now allowing them to play with red toys. And every time they're playing with red toys, I emphasize that this color is red. The curriculum now involves them being able to touch it, feel it, see it. It involves all the sensory. So when you're thinking about building curriculum, you're thinking about, how can I involve the sensory learning of all of the people that I want to teach, right? It's no longer just about me telling you something. It's about me showing you. It's about me allowing you to use your hands to touch it, to feel it, to use your eyes to see it. If it's something, if I were to come to your culture and I wanted to learn in your country, and I wanted to learn how to cook something, you cook a meal that I really, really like, you can either tell me how to do it by writing instructions on the board, that's transmissionist, or you can show me and include me in doing it by allowing me to see the ingredients that you use, cut them up with you. How about taste the food? Get my own measurement of what goes together, what spices go together. This is constructivism. This is how you create curriculum in this way. Okay, so it requires creativity. This constructivism says social interactions are important in this knowledge construction process. And so understanding your students helps create curriculum for your students. Interacting with them, with their families, with their communities, it helps construct the curriculum for them. Okay? Any questions? We got the difference between transmissionism and constructivism? Okay. A constructivist viewpoint, it's figuring out how different people construct their understanding of things in different contexts, both cognitively and socially. So as you will see, most good teachers use a constructivist approach, whether teachers are aware of formal constructivist principles or not. When you think about a good teacher, or you think about something that you have learned, and in the chat, I want you to let's throw this in the chat. I want you to think about something that you've learned, not because someone told you, but because someone involved you and showed you. And it could be anything. So I'll go first. I learned how to recite poetry because my mentor, my poet mentor, would take me and allow me to use my voice and project my voice when reading my own poetry. He didn't just tell me how to do it. He showed me, he allowed me to practice. We would have sessions after sessions after sessions. And then my favorite poet, Maya Angelou, I got to spend some time with her. And she showed me how to inflect my voice or calm my voice. She taught me the importance of emotions. If I wanted something to be like thunder, or if I wanted something to be like silence. She showed me that. She taught me that, not by telling me, but by allowing me to practice and showing me how to do it. So that's something that I learned in a constructivist way. I know it forever. Can you think of something you've learned that someone didn't tell you how to do it? They showed you, you participated in doing it. You can just put it in the chat, or you can say it with your voice.
I can go next.
Go for it, Sarah.
Well, first was cooking. I kind of remember just watching my parents cooking, and I just kind of copied it from them. They never gave me instructions.
Cooking's a great one.
And then mountain climbing. Mountain climbing again. A lot of times I just watch a video, even if it is on mute. I'm just watching someone ice climbing, and just by watching them, I'm learning rather than just. And then, of course, I've been on trips where I'm watching these other group of people mountain climbing. They are not my friends, or they're not talking to me. Just by watching how they're doing ice climbing, that's how I'm learning.
And when you first did ice climbing, were you great at it?
No, zero, not at all.
So you made a mistake, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so part of constructivism and building curriculum is the idea that there isn't necessarily a right way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You learn by practicing. You learn by making mistakes. Same thing with cooking. I'm sure the first time you cooked your dish that you loved, you didn't get it quite right.
Yeah, yeah.
But then you had to taste it. And by continuously tasting and continuously practicing, you were able to finally perfect that dish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone else?
I'll go next.
Okay.
I learned painting by watching videos done by other painters. And second one is like I discover new routes. Like if someone dropped me from one location to another, I remember that route by observing all the landmarks over there.
That's awesome. So let's look at both of those. Thank you. Those are amazing examples. Let's look at both of those. So you learned how to paint.
Yeah.
In order to paint, in America, you would be put into an art class, and they would teach you colors, and they would teach you how to put colors together, and they would teach you about different paint brushes, and they would teach you about how to stroke those paint brushes, right? But in order to be a great painter, you would really have to do it, practice, right? If I'm building curriculum in order to help you be a great painter, the curriculum must involve what you like to paint. It must involve the colors that you like. You have to co-create with me in order to learn that, right? And you kind of taught yourself that by watching other painters. But the second example, I think, is even better. You learned routes. You learned geography. Do you know how many kids take a science class and don't know how to read a map? They don't know how to get to point A from point B. They don't know geography. They don't know direction. They don't know the globe. They don't know access points. So learning routes is a mixture of geography and math. The measurement between one thing to the next, how to follow directions, right? How to go right, left, straight, angles. All of that is like math and science. It's a regular class. But because we learn that by someone telling us instead of someone actually showing us and allowing us to work it out on our own and saying, hey, we were at point A, we need to get to point B. What senses do you need? You need to be able to see. You need to be able to remember. You need to be able to smell in order to find your way, right? You have to have all of those senses in order to find your way. So if I wanted to create a lesson on directions, I wanted to build curriculum, maybe my lesson will involve us starting out in this part of our town and making our way back to our school. That's curriculum. That's building curriculum that actually helps people learn. I remember having to do geometry, and I'm not the best in math. I'm great with writing and, speaking. Math's not my favorite. But you know how I learned angles, 90 degree, 120 degree? My math teacher brought in little mini pool tables. And he taught us how to shoot pool using angles, which taught me how angles work. So it was a game. He brought in a game to teach us how to understand 90-degree angles, 120-degree angles, 180-degree angles, straight line, linear. I learned all of that through a game. That's how you create curriculum that is in a constructive way. Anyone else? Okay, thank you so much for sharing. I'm going to move on. Don't worry about my pictures. I just didn't change them today. Situated learning, skills and knowledge. So there's another type of learning. Situated learning or skills and knowledge are tied to the situation in which they were learned within a context. So that's kind of going back to you. The situation is you needed to learn how to move around in your city. You learn that within the context of having to travel. Situated learning emphasizes that most of what we learn is specific to the situation in which we learn it. So when you're building curriculum, build curriculum with situations in mind, right? What will actively help them within a situation? So now I'm no longer just learning how to read for the sake of reading. I'm learning how to read because I really love love story novels. And in that situation, it will help me if I learned how to read. I am learning math not because I'm just supposed to know addition and subtraction. I am learning it now because I need to know how to measure for cooking. That's the situation. So when you're thinking about curriculum, put your curriculum within a situation that your students can learn in life, that they need to know. If everyone learned how to cook, learned math for cooking because we had to cook, a lot of us would know it a little bit better because we got to measure. We got to know fractions. What's a cup? What's a fourth? What's a half? I want half of a pizza. I want half of an apple. There's 4 of us and we need to share it. Let's divide it up in quarters. See, that's situational learning. Building curriculum using situations. Examples would be, now this is good. This is for you all. Role playing, going on a field trip, greenhouses. My son learned all about planting because he planted our garden. He learned all about herbs. He can tell you every herb that exists. Rosemary, basil, peppermint, because he had to, he actually planted it. Right now he has an aloe vera plant that he waters every week. and he learned how aloe vera helps humans. Music, practice, all of those things is situated learning. And Sarah will give you these slides. And so when you get the slides, this is a video on situated learning, teaching young kids, no paper, no pen, not me being in front of a classroom. They're actually learning how to stretch by doing it. They're learning exercise, the science of exercise by actually doing it. Okay. Any questions with situated learning?
Can I share something?
Yes, ma'am.
Wait a minute. Okay, I have a son of 10 years and he just loves to watch YouTube videos rather than books. And in YouTube, excuse me. Sorry for the disturbance. And in YouTube, he just frequently watches videos of games, players, and planets, especially science. And so he loves to see that, and I know that that is also the way of learning. And he just doesn't want to go through the bookish knowledge only. So he feels lazy to read the books, but he loves to see the videos and history all about the earth or planets or people, all those things he wants to learn or love. So how
So
can
so I would reverse that. I have the same situation. I think it's a little boy thing. My 10-year-old is the same way. So he doesn't want to read books. He wants to, watch videos and YouTube as well. So to get him to learn, to build curriculum for him, I would allow him to watch it, and then he would have to write the book for me. He would have to write what he learned from the video and then share it with me. And then, so that's how I would build curriculum from him. Because if he already knows how to read and he just enjoys the visual aspect of learning, well, then have him then visually create something for you. Have him teach you. Say, you're watching that video. Can you write for me what happened in that video?
Yeah.
That's curriculum.
As soon as he finishes watching videos, he starts discussing me or delivering me. But I know that from next time, I just let him to write whatever he has
Have him
seen in
write. Exactly. And then sometimes you can, with the videos, with YouTube, you can go on YouTube and you can find books on YouTube that come alive. And maybe you can begin to then say, okay, well, this is a video that was turned into a book. This was a video that was turned into a movie. In order for it to be a movie, someone had to write it. Let's go find the written version. And then that becomes now an experiment. That becomes an exercise. That becomes a research project. We're going to go find the written aspect to the videos you just watched. That's thinking differently about curriculum. That was a great question. And I do it to my son all the time. I make him teach me. He loves YouTube. And I've learned a whole lot about all of his videos because I have him teach it to me by writing it. And then after they write it, then you read it together. And now what's so powerful by that is they're reading. You're getting them to now learn two different curriculum skills. You're getting them to learn how to write. You're getting them to learn how to read. But also you're getting them to learn how to explain, because they have to explain what it is that they just watched. It's a different way of thinking. Great question.
I think Amrita went to tell her son to write something.
Yes, ma'am. I got new technique.
Okay, so there's two types of constructivist learning: inquiry-based and problem-based. And I love both of these. Inquiry-based is when the teacher presents a puzzling situation and the student solves the problem by gathering data and testing their conclusions. So now I'm a teacher and I present something, a puzzling situation that they got to go figure out. They have to go solve it. You can do this in any subject. You can do this with anything. This is where you begin. Inquiry-based learning is when you really begin to have students develop critical thinking. Because if I'm just always telling you what to think, that's not learning. That's not good curriculum. But if I can evoke you to critically think on your own, now I'm getting you to learn. And so everything becomes a puzzle. Everything becomes a puzzle situation that I need you to solve. And this could be like something so simple. So when I taught in America, we have these boards. And on the board, we have dry erase boards, and they have these markers, and the kids you can write on the board with these markers. And my markers would always stay close to the board because I would always lose my markers. But what was happening with me was the kids would come in and they would take my markers and they would draw on my board. And they would make this big mess on my board. And so when I was ready to use the board, I couldn't because they just kept on just taking the markers and drawing on the board, taking the markers and drawing on the board. So there was two things I could have done, three really. One, I could have told them to stop. No explanation. Don't do it. Two, I could have taken the markers and just hid them or kept them with me. Or three, I could have inquired about the situation and had them figure out a solution on what to do with the markers. So what do you think I did? I did three. I inquired. I came in one day and I said, there's this puzzling situation that we have where every time I am not in this room, someone's drawing all over my board. I don't know why this is happening. Can you all figure out why this is happening? And what can we do about it? And I let them problem solve their own situation to stop them writing on my board. And they came up with all kind of reasons on why they were doing it. From, well, it was fun. It was a stress reliever. They like to draw. It's something to do when they're bored. I mean, they had all of these reasons on why they drew on the board. And then they had to come up with their own solved problem. How to solve it? And they came up with the idea that the markers have to be put in a certain location so that certain people won't have access to them. They put it in the location that it was supposed to be in. And guess what? Now, problem solved. Inquiry-based learning, critical thinking, that becomes important now if I'm having them read a passage and understanding a character and why a character acts a certain way. They now are developing skills to be able to have a conversation with me on character development. That's curriculum. That's how it ties back. Because now when I'm ready to read that book, guess what I'm going to do? Bring back my puzzling situation that we had to solve together and say, do you remember when the character Nita had this situation? What happened? What did Nita do? Describe it for me. What do you think should have been her options? Critical thinking. Hope this is helping. So inquiry-based learning. Problem, hypothesis, conclusions, and it's guided by questions. So when you're building curriculum, build curriculum that has a lot of questions. Don't always give them the answer. Usually there is one right answer here. When inquiry-based learning, the idea is to get to how to solve it. There's an answer, how to solve it. Okay. My favorite is the next one, and we're almost finished. This is something you can watch on your own. This is my favorite, and we're almost finished. Problem-based learning. This curriculum, I really, really, really love. I mean, I love it so much that I would do a lot of workshops with teachers around the world on PBLs. Problem-based learning is used to develop flexible knowledge that can be used in a variety of different situations. Problem presented to the students, usually challenging and real. And generally, there is not one right answer. So I had a group of students, and the problem that they identified was that there were no grocery stores or food stores in their neighborhood. And kids had to walk from their home to their school, and there was nowhere to stop to get food. And that was a problem. And kids were hungry, and that was a problem. With problem-based learning, your student identifies the problem they care about. You don't identify it for them. They identify it. And so with this particular group of students, they were in middle school. They identified the problem. No food places in their neighborhoods. Kids are hungry. Then what I did was help students develop flexible knowledge that can be applied in different scenarios. So all the knowledge that they needed around food insecurity, that was a little bit of agriculture, that was a little bit of business, that was a little bit of math, reading. We just kind of got general knowledge around food. Then the students generate hypotheses about solutions and determine information they need to find to get answers. This problem-based learning encourages collaboration, working together. It encourages holistic learning. Your curriculum can't be singular with problem-based learning because it's a circle. It all works together. You need one aspect of a discipline to connect with another aspect, to connect with another aspect, and to make it all happen. And by the time these students begin to learn all the different aspects of hunger and how to solve hunger, how to solve the lack of food, they came up with an amazing, amazing project that actually worked. They presented and ended up writing and creating a proposal to their city government. And in the proposal, they proposed that instead of the city government planting regular trees along routes that kids walk from school to home, that their city government plant fruit trees, apple tree, peach tree, all the fruit trees that grow in their area. And the fruit trees would be maintained by city government, and kids can just pick off of the tree as they're walking along their path to eat. Now, in other countries, that's normal. You can see a mango tree, you can go get a mango coconut tree, but in America, that's not normal. In some parts of America, we don't have fruit trees at all. We don't have berry bushes, we don't have strawberries, we don't have any of that. So the kids, through their investigation, through their learning, through their the information that they were learning about what happens and what needs, and they presented, they found this problem, and then they said, if you plant these trees along paths that students walk, kids won't be at school hungry, they will be able to learn better. I mean, they had all of their reasons, all of their information that they needed in order to solve this problem. And they got adults to listen to them and actually do it. And I, as the teacher, had very little to do with it. This is my favorite curriculum. All I was doing as a teacher was guiding them in directions to learn general knowledge around the area. This wasn't me in front of a classroom. This wasn't me telling them what to do. They created it. I love problem-based learning. And problem-based learning, this type of curriculum, can be done with anyone, anywhere, no matter what resources you have. Because it challenges you to use the resources that you have. You gotta get creative. Now, I would have never thought of having an apple tree, a berry bush. That's not how I would have taught that. If I was teaching in a transmissionist way, and I wanted to teach about hunger, and I wanted to teach about food deserts, I would be giving a whole bunch of information and statistics on hunger in our country and data. I would not have thought about it that way. Problem-based learning is my favorite curriculum. And this is a whole curriculum all by itself. Too often we give children answers to remember rather than problems to solve. And this is a link of all types of problem-based learning activities for students of all ages. And so I provided it for you so that you can go on that link and it will give you all kind of ideas. It's like 100 ideas. Any questions on PBLs? Okay. Guiding teacher thinking. So these are guiding questions and focus questions, just to kind of show you how it works. You start here where you investigate, procedures determine relationships. Then you engage, you have your questions, your claims, you evaluate, you report, and it's singular. It's circular, I mean. And so it's always happening. It's a repeat, it's a circle. You investigate, you engage, you report, you explain, you evaluate. And sometimes, if you notice the arrows, sometimes you report and then you have to investigate again. Sometimes you evaluate, then you have to report again. Sometimes you report and then you have to go back and engage. Investigate, you engage, and evaluate all at the same time. So it's kind of like a web that's a continuous web that keeps going and going and going and going. And I just wanted to give you a visual that this isn't a linear process. This type of curriculum building is circular. I think that might be it. Oh. I like this quote by Ben Franklin. Tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, involve me and I learn. My favorite quote by Ben. If you tell me everything that I'm telling you right now, you're going to forget. If I teach you, you're going to remember. But if I involve you, you're going to learn. So cooking in the kitchen, involving you, you learn it. Solving a problem on hunger, involve them and they learn it. Having your son write to you what he's learning on YouTube, you're involving him and he's learning. Make sense?
Yeah.
Some examples of how to do that is service learning, ignore my pictures, internships, school newspaper debate club in a social studies class or in a class where you want them to learn about your country and your government, have them debate. You're involving them in the process. They'll learn it better. Reading a book with them. You know, a lot of times we want kids to read, but we as adults don't read to them. It's something powerful to read to a kid. Read to your students, no matter what age they are. They love it. Even high schoolers. When you read to them, they're learning. You're involving them. You can stop. You can pause. You can ask questions. They're hearing how you read. They're learning the cadence of your voice. Very, very important. And then let them teach. Let them teach what they've learned. Let students teach. We don't always have to be the teacher. They learn great things too. Sometimes better than us. Like, Yunsha, if I needed geography, I would be coming to help you give me a lesson because I get lost all the time. I can't remember point A to point B ever. So sometimes you learn from them.
Yeah.
When you're doing all of these examples, you still need to scaffold, reflect, and let students observe as an expert. And so sometimes your learning and your curriculum is scaffolding means, you know, you have one step, then the next step, then the next step, then the next step. So sometimes you don't give them all of it at one time. Sometimes you take it step by step. And then sometimes you got to go revisit step 1, revisit step 2, and you just build. Scaffolding means you can build upon that. So no matter what curriculum you choose to create and design, you always have to have room for being able to go back. I promise you, I think that's it. Yep, that's it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Love. We really appreciate it. That was very informative, and I've learned things for my own students at my school. So I hope everybody else, you can use this. I mean, Rita asked a question about your kid, and you're teaching to so many students. So it was interesting. And all of you can benefit from it for your classes. Most of you are teachers, educators, and you are all educators of this program. You're supposed to, at the end of your graduation, you're supposed to go teach everything you're learning here to your students and then mentor the next generation of teachers who are coming to this program. So I am very happy that you're all here. Thank you, Dr. Love, again. I really appreciate the time that you give us. And I know summers are more difficult for you, but hopefully the next module that we have is in the winter. So it's maybe that timing works a little better than in the winter.
Yes, yes, but I love it. And when you all asked about this topic, it's my favorite topic actually. I love teaching constructivist curriculum building.
Good.
I love them. Thank you, Dr. Love.
Thank
really loved
you.
it.
Thank you. So I hope you all have a good week. And I think next week I'm out of town again. My son made it to regional, so he runs track and he placed second in the state.
Wow.
He jumped a 12 feet, 10.75 inches in a long jump.
Wow.
10.
How
And
tall
so
is he?
he's 5'1" now. He's
Wow.
my height. He's as tall as me now. And then he placed gold in his 4x1. And so he's going to regionals next weekend in a different state. So we won't be here because he's running Saturday morning.
That's
Thank you.
Congratulations to you and your son.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Love.
Thank you. Yes. So
proud mom.
well, you know what he's doing that makes me more prouder is that he coded this summer. So he has built like 2 computers.
Wow.
2 robots.
That's amazing.
He loves to code. So everything that I teach you, by the way, is truly my personal philosophy, and I use it on my son. So everything that I teach you, that's why I can relate, because I use it for him in every stage of his life. So right now he's 10 years old, and we're dealing with what happens when they turn 10 and 11 and 12, right? And how they care about TikTok and YouTube and blah, 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 blah. And so I have to be creative in how I continually challenge his learning and how I get him to learn and build curriculum for him and, ideas for him. And so everything that I teach you, I use. I just want you to know that. Like, I'm not, this isn't just coming from like my book knowledge. This is coming from my life knowledge.
Thank you.
So,
thank you.
I just want you to know that. So have a good week, a good 2 weeks. And whenever I get back, I'll see you again.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks a lot. Thank you everyone for being here. Have a great Saturday night and we'll see you next Saturday. Bye.